Welcome to the First Five Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Corey, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Drew Gotro.
And today in the podcast studio, we have a guest that we're really excited about because his comedy career has started so recently, and he's already just really moving fast. He is a recent winner of Stone versus Drunk versus Sober here in Lafayette. Please welcome to the podcast, Don Schexnider.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, man. We were talking before we turned the mics on. You've only been doing comedy for 6 months?
5 or 6 months. Yeah, I started in May.
That is amazing, dude. So you won your first Stone Drunk Sober. What was that like? Because we watched the whole thing happen, and we were just amazed at what happened. We would get from your perspective. Did you go in thinking you had a shot?
No. Because my humor's so unusual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else. It's so dark.
Yeah.
And so specific.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
And gross. Yeah, I go hard. and I've always been that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to get more groans than laughs. I know I will. But I'll take groans. I mean, I go for them sometimes.
Right.
And so it was kind of surreal. And what got me was how fast it felt.
Yeah.
It felt like they put me on stage and then it was over. And I'm like, wow, my head was just spinning.
Yeah, that was quite a set, man. I mean, they really, I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like you have a charm or just a natural rapport with people. I don't think that they're expecting your style to be what it is. I think that's working in your favor. But I just remember that the room was very electric that night during your set. And I don't think any of us had any question at that point. Like, if you won, nobody was going to be surprised if you won once we all saw your set. But then when you came back for the winners, what do they call that? Victory lap? When you come back for the next one?
Oh, yeah, when you open.
Yeah. When you came back for the follow-up, it was more. Wherever you were when you won, I think I was working the door and I didn't get to see your set.
Yeah.
But it was like crazy. Everybody was talking. The chat was alive with comments about how great it was going. Did it feel like more when you came back, or did it just kind of blur together?
It was like, Jason mentioned it. He said it was like I slowed it down and gave the audience time to laugh.
Yeah.
And they just laughed so long sometimes. It was like freaking me out. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That went big. And I think it was just, I got the timing of it perfect.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Because what I do, I just make up stories with a grain of truth in them, sometimes a very tiny grain of truth. Yeah. And tell it in punchlines. It's just basically what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're doing it like, I was watching you. I can see like you're waiting for people to stop laughing. And I don't know what's going through your head, but I was thinking like, I've kind of been there before where you're like, this is great, but I'm not going to get to finish.
I was scared I was going to go way over.
But then like you'd be sitting there waiting, and then you would make like a face or something, and they would start them all like the laughter would start losing momentum, and you do something with your eyes or something, and then they would start laughing again. Where it's like, yeah, we're almost at a standstill now here.
Right. Yeah, because I remember you said you told somebody he's gonna go long.
Yeah, I was like, I feel he'll probably. Yeah, I told Garrett that. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up running the light a little bit. Because how do you anticipate that much?
That they're going to laugh. And
are they going to laugh that much even, you know?
Well, yeah, what was going through my head while I was doing it was, holy shit, what can I cut out?
Right.
Because if I don't cut something out, I'm not going to be able to do my incest clothes.
Right. Right. Yeah, you don't just lob it off the end, though. You got to cut a section out and kind of copy paste in the moment.
So I was the whole time I'm doing it, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, what can I drop when the light hits? What can I just
Yeah, the good thing is though, if you like go a minute over, but you're fucking murdering, people tend to not really care, you know?
True.
As long as you don't get ridiculous with it, you know?
Yeah.
But usually people don't. People are like, yeah, he's murdering. It's so he went a minute long. Who cares?
Right.
yeah.
You're not making the show. You're making the show better. If anything, you're not making it worse. You know what's bad is when people run the light and
They're trying to save it.
right when it's not going well, and they try to bring it back.
Mhm.
That's when it gets on people's nerves.
Just digging
'Cause
themselves
now
deeper.
now it's like you kind of cooling off the audience for everyone here. You know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was at a show recently and a comic that went on last.
Mm-hmm.
We had 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They did 7.5.
Goddamn.
Ignored the light. If the light was over here, they looked this way.
It was like
They
an open
walked to put
mic,
the light over there, huh?
an open mic, or like a book thing.
Like it was a show and then an open mic after.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I'll see a lot of new people that'll never see the light because they get up there and they never think, and I don't understand the thinking behind it. Where I've ended up telling them, like new people when they come off stage, like, hey, good little tip. When you're up there, be aware of where the host is in the room while you're up there. Because you know what I mean? Or you're going to miss the light. And because I'll see people, they'll be up there and the host will be waving the light at them, but they're like looking at the floor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be aware of your surroundings. And I usually ask, where you going to be when you light
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
I've
you
done
going
that
to be when
before.
you light me?
Good, and a lot of times a good host will tell you sometimes, like they'll say, you know, if it's 5 minutes set, you can light at 4 minutes, I'll be over here.
Yeah. And that was like one of the hardest things for me to get used to,
Mm-hmm.
like setting a time period on
Right.
what I'm doing and learning to adjust as you go because it's not always 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's 4. Sometimes
And sometimes you're not going to know until you're there.
not
Right.
know until you're there. I went to 1 and it was 3.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I had to do some quick editing.
Was
in
that the
my
station?
head. Huh?
Was that the station?
No, it was at I think it was at the Freetown Boom Boom Room.
Ah. Yeah.
3 minutes, and I was like, wow, okay, where do
Yeah.
I go from here?
Yeah. That's intense. 3 minutes. I wonder why they would even do that. Because normally the only reason the station does it is because there's so
It's
many
like
people.
40 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, there was a bunch of people.
That's interesting. Boom Boom Room is cool. There's a few cool little places that we can do comedy in Freetown. I'm kind of worried about what's going on with Artmosphere. I mean, I don't want to like throw them under or anything. I might check with the guys and we'll cut this out if they don't want us to be talking about it publicly. But there's a lot of turnover with the staff.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And then I've noticed that there's somebody that we know in the scene who's upset about the ADA modifications that need to happen over there and has been making an issue. And the rumor going around about that is that he's almost, I don't know about the rumor. Let me just I'll tell you the way that it comes across to me. It comes across to me where he's like, well, if they fold as a result of all of this ruckus, then that's that. I'm just as happy with that because I'm not there enjoying it right now. And all of my other friends are. So if I make a ruckus and they fix it and they put a ramp or whatever they need to do, great. But if it also causes them to fold because they refuse to do it, I'm just as happy with that because there's no sweat off my back.
Yeah, well, I think if something would happen, if that place would go out of business, I think that's going to be their story. Is to be like, oh, well, it's going to be this because of this, and they're going to blame him, and well, this guy shut us down. But if your bar shuts down over building a ramp, you had way bigger problems.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would wonder is just purely from a business standpoint, is it one of those things where if they give on the ramp, then they got to hurry up and do all the other modifications that they desperately need to do to that place to make the bathrooms more accessible? And would they feel like it's setting a precedent for them to then have to turn around and do this big outpouring of cash to do everything? I don't know. That is a thought in the back of my mind. I don't like speculating about things I just know absolutely nothing about. So I'll just say that I am a little worried.
Yeah, me too. Because like even though I'm in a wheelchair, I used to be an accountant,
Mm-hmm.
so I see it from both sides.
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, you know how expensive stuff is now.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
building materials ain't
Yeah.
cheap.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, I mean, I can see both sides, but also from an accounting position. In the year 2023, when you're buying a bar that doesn't have a ramp or anything, I think this should be figured into, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
being ADA, like your place being legal should be figured in like that. When you're doing the deal, you should figure that in to where like when you're coming up with a price
Mhm.
to be like, hey, you're going to have to knock some money off of the price because I need to build a ramp. I need to make the bathrooms accessible, blah, blah, blah. And if they don't, you don't buy it, you know?
Right.
Because we're not talking about some fat fuck that wants a hallway widened because they're the size of multiple people. This is like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Absolutely,
not,
yeah.
we're not asking, they're not being asked to like accommodate some like
Yeah, I'm barely
crazy
a foot
circumstance.
wide.
Yeah, you know what I
It's
mean?
like-
This is how every place is. It's kind of the bare minimum for a business to open the doors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not.
Mhm.
It's not
yeah.
very. It's not a big ask. You know.
And it's weird. It's not limited to Atmosphere. It's I went to a friend's wedding on Avery Island at the Tabasco
Mhm.
place,
Yeah,
Tabasco
oh, yeah.
complex. It didn't have a wheelchair accessible bathroom.
Hmm.
And you know how big Tabasco is?
Yeah.
And how much money that family
Yeah.
has?
Right.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out if there's something in the law that they're grandfathered in
Same.
that they
Yes.
don't
Yeah, I
have
was wondering
to
about
do.
that because
I've
that's
always wondered about
because
that.
they've owned that for forever.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking while you were talking. At least they have the excuse about like, well, it's the old when they first built this place,
Mhm.
we didn't want handicaps here, we didn't want their kind.
Oh, yeah. Back then, there wasn't no machinery. If you
we
wanted
used-
somebody to
we
work
used
in
to-
your field, you
yeah.
had to buy them.
Yeah, back in the day, we had someone disabled. We just dropped them off in the woods,
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, so ultimately, I hope whatever happens, happens. We don't have any control over any of
No.
these things. And I hope that if Atmosphere doesn't work out, the comedy scene, the effort that we put into developing it, and I say the people that are producing these shows, the effort that they've put into, hopefully it'll just be transferable to wherever we end up next.
Yeah, just look for another venue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like even just at Jason's show, just moving from one place to another, it improved immediately.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
To the new place is great.
Yeah, even if there's no one there, it's still better.
Yeah.
You just feel better. You feel
the way the building is. Yeah.
the way the building's made, you feel like you're in a comedy club.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you're in a small comedy club.
Yeah. In an ideal world, you wouldn't put the stage right next to the entrance, or exit.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing I've noticed. It's a common thing at a lot of places
Yeah.
that we go.
Right there.
All the foot traffic goes. It's very distracting when you're on stage.
Oh, the legends downtown. If somebody came through the front door, they walk right in front of
Dude,
you.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of those places, so they're built for music. That's what I'm saying. Like where we're at Legends Pub now, I think it's probably like the door being right there. There's things that's wrong with it, but it's like the closest you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
none of
Especially
these
in a place
places.
that size.
They were.
too.
No one had stand up in mind when they were building these places.
No.
So
I never have stand up in mind.
And they like to put music by entranceways, especially if it's like an outside thing. Because
Yeah,
they did
that's
that at
true.
I went to watch someone at Beer Garden one time, and at Beer Garden they have this big old stage, but they put another stage like by the road. And I was thinking like, why aren't they using that big old stage? And then one of my friends ends up popping in, and he came in, and he told me he's like, because it was my cousin that was singing. I was like, yeah, that's my cousin. And he's like, yeah, that's the only reason I walked in here. He's like, I remember I was like, yeah, there's a festival going on. It's foot traffic, so they put the stage right there for that reason.
So
The only
people
reason
would
he
see
walked
it.
in, and then he goes and buys a beer, you know. But with comedy, you don't put a comedian. If anything, for comedy is the opposite. Sometimes you almost don't want them knowing. In a way,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
I don't know how much live comedy is a draw to sort of like the casual patron, you know. So
if it's an open mic, for sure, it's
Right.
not much of a draw.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to really push it to get people to come.
Is there anybody in the whole South Louisiana collection of scenes that you would think would actually even be big enough to be a draw? Oh, so and so's on the lineup. Let's go. If they're not necessarily dialed in, because this kind of seems like it's kind of it. It kind of seems like people who actually are looking forward to seeing a particular comedian do a set. I don't know. It just seems like that would be a very small group of people.
Yeah, other than like us that were in the scene, yeah, I think it's a small group of people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you almost like you have to play that thing of not knowing what to do, whether to invite a lot of your friends or not invite them.
Yeah.
You know, when you're starting out, like I've heard
Mhm.
several people say, yeah, I would say don't invite any of your friends.
Well, not to open mic for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
The
no.
showcase, I would say differently,
Yeah.
but I don't
Yeah.
really invite anyone either. I post about it, and if it's a showcase I'm on, people show up. I mean, hey, that's great, and if they don't, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, like me,
As far as people I know, I want there to be a crowd there, but as far as someone I know, I don't.
yeah. And I feel uncomfortable promoting myself.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just not.
Yeah, it feels very unnatural.
It's unnatural. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I wonder about that. Like friends I have that are on Facebook, I worry about when I'm promoting all this stuff because you're supposed to, and usually the producer kind of would like you to because they got to sell tickets, you know. And I wonder if some people are like, man, this dude is fucking full of himself.
Right.
Like like his Facebook is all look at me,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's like, I
Yeah.
have to, you know.
But you
Right.
got to. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to. The
Yeah.
only other thing would be to go like start a separate like start a page, a comedy page, and I feel like it would be a very douchey move for me to do
Everybody
right now.
I
Yeah.
have never in my life ever wanted to follow anybody that I know who is a local performer who's basically their fan base is also their social network. Every time they start a specific page for their thing, I'm like, I don't want to follow that. I don't want to constantly be bombarded with ads and stuff like that from my friends to patronize their business that I may just not have any interest in. So I'm very aware. I've never thought of starting my own. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what it would take.
Yeah,
for me to
usually
do that.
someone local and I know them. What do I need to follow your thing? I know you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
especially if it's someone I talk to pretty regular. It's like, dude, I know everything you're doing.
And it's the thing about time management. You can only be on your phone or your computer so much, especially you guys. Y'all work. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm retired
Mhm.
and I have more time than y'all.
Yeah.
But I don't have that kind of time to spend stuck on my phone or
No.
on my computer.
Yeah.
I'm working on my
Yeah.
comedy.
And ultimately, that burden really does fall on the producer. It's nice to still share and promote and help out. But yeah, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna drive myself crazy trying to promote a show.
Yeah,
That's not my job. I'm supposed to show up and do stand up.
Yeah, my job's to show up and make people laugh. That's what you want me to
and
come
that's not
there
even
and
that's
do.
not even guaranteed. Making people laugh isn't even guaranteed, really. As long as you do your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that what we see a lot with local entertainment is comparisons between the music scene and comedy. And so bars and musical venues, some of them have the attitude, like a few exceptional places, like there's a Mexican restaurant that's got like 10 or 15 locations in South Louisiana, and they have the attitude of like, we are paying musicians to come to just be an extra added thing for the restaurant experience.
Background noise almost.
Yeah, and they don't expect you to
Elevator
bring a
music.
crowd. But the vast majority of places, particularly bars, their thing is, dude, if you're not going to draw people, we're not booking you. Like they have a lot of pressure on the musical group to bring a crowd, like a built-in crowd with them. So they have like a guaranteed uptick in God forbid you go and do a show at a bar and it's empty.
Yeah, what's crazy with music too is like, because I've seen from people showing up at Legends Pub, like I'll be sitting outside smoking a cigarette. As soon as they come, like, just the fact that there's someone there playing music, they're like, we just want to go hear a band. We just want there to be music. But if it's comedy, then it's like, who is it? Are they funny? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also a thing of like musicians aren't going to go and do what comics do, as far as like, I'm going to show up and do my set for the pleasure of doing a set. And I might get, I'm not going to mention the amount of money, but a small amount of money to do it. A musician, it's like scale. If I'm not going to get at least $100 to walk away.
We cost us money usually.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You got to drive to the venue.
Well, the thing about it is you can't, the comedy's not like music in a way that you really can't rehearse comedy at home.
Right.
I mean, you can do like you like to do your preparation where you'll go through your set, if you're going to be performing that night. But the only way you can't really get better at it that way.
Right.
You have to go do it in front of a crowd.
Live.
Yeah, you don't get to like if you play guitar, you pick up a guitar and you do it in the privacy of your own home. You get to hide the bad, the ugly part when you're not good. And then you just don't play in front of anyone until you get to a point where you're like, I'm good. And you can instantly tell this sounds the way it's supposed to sound. And comedy's like, I think this is the way it's, but you have to do it in front of people. That's the only way to figure it out.
Now, some of my facial expressions, I've got in front of the mirror and worked them out. Actually put thought into them. And but that's about it. I mean, I don't get in front of the mirror and do my routine. It's still gonna be just me laughing at it.
And actors do that too. Actors, especially the ones that do on camera work, they will practice facial expressions in the mirror and stuff, because all that little subtlety, goes into performance. And there's different methods for acting. Some people are method actors where they just need to become this person in order to portray them, and other ones are literally everything they're doing is rehearsed and they worked it out ahead of time, and they're just excuse me, they're just going through, they're playing a program whenever they're on it.
Well, I mean, for somebody to listen to me and then assume that I'm into molestation and incest. I mean, I can promise you I'm definitely not into molestation.
Let's talk about your style of comedy, because it's a kind of a big complex conversation that I want to have with you, because there was before we started getting to know you, I just would have assumed that because a lot of your jokes incorporate like the wheelchair and the way that you present to the world, that this is maybe something you've had time to think about your whole life. But
I didn't think you were going to be funny at all.
No?
I didn't.
Thought it was a good bomb?
Yeah, it was just when they did a Stone Drunk Sober at Showbox one time, and you were there, and you were outside. And remember, they were supposed to do like they were going to have you host an open mic over there, but never happened, which
Yeah,
I
they
think is a
never
good thing.
did anything. Yeah.
And it was like, I overheard you talking to someone else, and you were saying that you did stand up one time, and then you were gonna host this mic and stuff. And I was like, this is gonna be terrible. I'm pretty sure someone did stand up one time, and now they're gonna go host a mic. And then you told one joke that you do in your act, and you told one joke. You're like, this is one of the jokes I told the time I did it, and it didn't make me laugh. I was like, that is a funny joke, but I was like, oh, he's got one joke, I was like, this is like,
you were skeptical.
Yeah, I was skeptical, and then it was like the way a lot of your jokes are. They are like set up punchline, even though it might be more to it, set up punchline. Like you just did a real quick set up punchline to where it's like, I was like, this guy's probably just enjoys memes, because it felt like a meme type of joke, even though it was funny. And but then when like you came to mics, and like when I first saw you come to a mic, and I was like, oh no, this guy's funny and has honest intentions about comedy.
Yeah.
If there's anything you don't know, is you just don't know what you don't. You know what I mean? It's just yeah. So I was like, oh no, he's cool.
The open mics for me, that's school.
Yeah, that's it. That is what it is. Yeah,
that's school. I mean, I learned from a lot of what's helping me is what I learned from even you guys.
Yeah,
it's like watching your different styles, different delivery, and I pick and choose from each person.
Yeah.
Something that I like, but I don't copy it.
Yeah, it's influence.
I make it my own. I beat on it till it fits me.
Well, that's kind of what I was curious about. Is it because every comic, in my opinion, obviously just has to take however they present to the world and kind of tailor their act so that there's some sort of, you're meeting people where they're at in their first impressions, because that's the best place to start. And so I kind of assumed that because a lot of it took into account, like, okay, I'm in a wheelchair, that maybe you'd had like a long time to think about it. But then when we were talking, I found out pretty quickly that, because I think you mentioned being an athlete, and then I was talking to Drew about that, and he was telling me that actually, there was you went a certain period of your life not being in a wheelchair, and then there was a transition. So I was just curious, if you had started stand up at another time in your life, what do you think that what do you think your comedy would be like? Would it be exactly the same and just not reference the wheelchair?
Yeah, the only difference between a wheelchair, because I was still disabled. I mean, when I could walk, I looked like a zombie and a crackhead had a baby.
And you were already perverted too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't turn into a disgusting old man just because you're in a wheelchair.
No. My mother said I could speak when I was 9 months old. And speak in sentences, not just baby talk.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a hospital. I didn't move in my parents full time until I was 2.5 years old.
Wow. Didn't know that.
I was born when Eisenhower was in his first term as president.
Oh, yeah. They were really throwing shit at the wall.
They would just like, let's try this and see if it works.
Their dolls full of leeches and shit.
They literally did not. I mean, there was nothing.
His doctor's a priest.
The nurses were nuns.
Yeah. See?
It was charity hospital.
It's like watching American Horror Story. Like,
oh, man.
Like, man, those must have been crazy times. It is walking history right here.
But like, even I can remember some stuff that happened when I was 9 months old because of the way I came up. I wasn't around, you know how you talk to babies, they go, No, it was doctors and nurses and nuns. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure they had a rough bedside manner.
Yeah,
there was
no physical interaction other than stuffing food in my face and changing my diaper.
Mm-hmm.
I have a cousin who swears he remembers being born.
I just don't have any patience for that kind of shit.
He's like, no, dude. And like, you must have had a dream or something. He's like, no, dude. He's like, no, I remember it. So the thing was like, so you saw your mama's pussy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he got very aggravated, like he's trying to have a serious conversation. And I'm being silly. And
Like
he's like,
you're the one that said something ridiculous.
He's like, no. He's like, it was behind me. Like I came out. He's like, why would I see it? I'm like, I didn't come out backwards, you know.
You come out head first.
Yeah.
You would be looking right at it.
I always wanted to make that a joke, but I haven't figured out how yet.
Yeah, what'd you do? Come out on your back looking up?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So you always had sort of an irreverent, raunchy kind of sense of humor because.
Yeah. Like I was saying, 9 months old, and I have flashes of it. Of that one memory because I asked my mom about it, and that's how I found out about it. And another memory from when I was 2.5. And she said I was home for a visit. I could stay one day. Mm-hmm. At first, I had to go back the same day they brought me home. Yeah. I couldn't stay overnight. And then finally, it got to where I could stay overnight one night. Mm-hmm. Like they'd pick me up on a Saturday morning and bring me back Sunday evening to the hospital. And one time, my dad came home from work, and it's South Louisiana, and there was no air conditioners and heavy equipment back then, and they operated bulldozers and excavators. So when they got home, they were sweaty and dirty and smelled. Yeah. Instead, the guy reached down to touch me in the playpen or whatever I was in on the floor, and said, "Oh, look how cute." And my mom said, I looked at him and went, "I can smell your drawers." And then the guy was like, "Holy fuck, what did he say?" My mom said, "He didn't say anything. He can't talk. He's just a baby."
You'd punch a kid back then. Yeah. Mom, hey. So what this fucking kid just say to me?
She thought I was possessed. I thought I was Chinese. Every time I opened my mouth, somebody said, "Holy fuck."
Right. Well, so how long was it until you got to the point where you were just permanently? Did that ever happen? Like, at what point in childhood did you get to the point where you weren't having to go back to the hospital, like to spend the night?
Oh, to spend the night, like at 2.5.
Okay.
2.5 years old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can remember when my mom came and got me. Yeah. I can actually remember her walking up because where Charity Hospital was, it was up from the road. Right. So I couldn't see her right at first. She had to walk up like a little hill to get even with where I was because a nun had brought me outside and set me at a picnic table and gave me a chicken salad sandwich and a glass of milk.
Jesus, you remember all that?
Yeah. I remember it vividly. It was a red checkered tablecloth on the picnic table.
That's crazy.
It's that vivid a memory. Mm-hmm. And I can still in my mind see my mom walking up. Mm-hmm. And I remember what she said. She said, "You ready to come home?" I went, "Yeah." And she said, "You want to finish your sandwich?" I went, "No, I've had enough." She picked me up and carried me to the car because I couldn't walk yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And didn't have a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. People just carried me everywhere.
Yeah. And I think if I remember correctly, you got into accounting when you were a teenager. You were like doing stuff in high school when you got into it. And then you found a trade and you stuck with it all the way through to retirement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because that's what I wanted to do. Initially, I wanted to be a doctor, but or a veterinarian, but it was a different time back then. Yeah. The world back then was nothing like it is now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nothing like it. Like people complain about, this not access and that, like getting into a building or being able to go to any university you want, do whatever you want. That didn't exist back then.
So like you just wouldn't have had the sort of public outcry to.
Well, no. When I wanted to be a doctor, they actually told me, no, you can't be a doctor. You're too disabled.
Right. Yeah. Just very
And there
to
was
the point.
nobody to turn to.
Right.
Well, I'm going to complain to.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah, you couldn't go in the news. People would be like, of course he can't be a fucking doctor.
Yeah, look
Is
at
he crazy?
it.
Yeah.
People, I imagine not only like the public would probably just not have been on your side, but they just didn't have the organizations and the government agencies and the regulations and all that stuff that we have now.
No.
Yeah.
People don't realize, and I'm old. I mean, I'm 66, but that's not that long ago.
Right.
When you think about it, it's just that we don't live long.
Yeah.
That's why it feels like it's so long, because we're looking at it in terms of our lifetime.
Right.
But it's not that long ago.
Yeah, it's like when you're like 7 years old, an hour is so fucking long because you've been alive such a short period of time that your reference is so small,
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, so you were an accountant, just career accountant all the way through, and then I know I'm just very interested in your history as an athlete, because I think that some of that mindset has played into, and I'm going to tie all this together later, but I think that has something to do with it. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you get involved in athletics?
Okay, what happened was when I was in high school, I broke my back. I got knocked down 2 flights of concrete stairs by accident.
Okay.
And didn't realize it at the time, but it broke my back. But I was in really good shape, from picking my ass up off the floor constantly.
Right.
Because I fell a lot when I walked. I mean, my chin is nothing but scar tissue.
Wow.
From falling. And so I ended up, when I was 30, having to have back surgery because it was getting to where I was falling and couldn't move my legs. And that's when I found out my back was actually broken. So I had surgery. They did a bone fusion with bone from my pelvis. They did something called a laminectomy, the part that covers your spinal cord that sticks out of your back like a dorsal fin. They had to remove one of those because it was broken off and cut in my spine.
Jeez. So,
and then they had to do different procedures to clean up between the vertebrae from arthritis. Doctor actually said I was 30, and the neurosurgeon said I had the spine of an 80-year-old.
Wow.
So, and it was after that, when I recuperated enough, that I heard about the sports program through a friend, and just started getting involved. And I had always played football with my brothers, just like everybody else. And they didn't go easy on me. They knocked me out several times playing. One time, one neighbor said, "Why's your little brother laying on the ground? Did y'all hurt him?" And they go, "No, he's fine. Just ask him when he wakes up."
Jeez. How many older brothers did you have?
There were 6 of us children in our core family, and I have a brother and sister from my dad's first marriage.
Okay. Gotcha.
So my dad was busy because there's only like 15 years difference in the top age and my age, which was the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
8 kids in 15 years.
He had no hobby. Well, he had one hobby.
He was good at it.
Yeah, apparently so.
All right. So you grew up roughhousing with your brothers. No, people just kind of there wasn't a lot of coddling, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but
no. When I was bad, they beat my ass.
Yeah.
Even in school.
Yeah. 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 I was about to say they'd have to, even like when I was a kid, which wasn't that long ago. If an adult just had to know your parents and they were allowed to hit you.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. That was pretty much it. Like the neighbors could hit you, anyone, especially if you were like at their house. Then it's you're at their house.
When I first started school, I wasn't socialized. I wasn't around people outside of my family or people outside of a medical community, nuns and doctors.
Right.
So when I got to school, and y'all know how kids are, I was the same way. They cruel.
Yeah.
Oh, they made fun of me savagely, and I wasn't used to it. because I wasn't socialized.
Right. No, I'm sure that was a terrible adjustment.
Oh, no, I'd walk up and punch him in the face.
Okay, I got you.
I got sent to the principal's office constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I got spanked at least 3 times a week by the principal. He had this big wooden paddle. Mm-hmm. Didn't bother me, though, because I wore braces from the waist down. And
couldn't get at you.
He thought he was hitting my butt. He was hitting the braces.
You know how wild the idea is in today's context to be hitting a child in leg braces in the first place. You know what I mean?
Corporal punishment.
And with a piece of wood, like
what a pit. That's what I'm saying. I grew up in an entirely different world than we're in today.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was funny because he didn't know he wasn't hurting me.
Right.
Because I acted like I was crying. Yeah. But I was basically laughing because it wasn't hurting. And he broke the paddle one day.
He broke a paddle on a disabled child.
On a disabled child. But my mama, that bitch, she came to school and showed him where to hit me. So I would feel
that's how parents were. What?
Mm-hmm.
What? You almost killed me with your vagina. Now you're coming back for second.
Yeah, like when I was a kid, you wouldn't do like kids now, like they'll go like tell their mom, like tattle about the teacher. Like you didn't do that when we were kids. Mm-hmm. You would, if you went, you would get in trouble again at home. And the parents they took the word of the adult all the time. They always took the word of the adult. And my mom's thing was like, because it was always like, I swear I didn't do it. Can't be that every time. And my mom's thing was always like, well, if you didn't do this one, then you're just catching your lick from something else you got away with.
Right. And it's all balances out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't go, we're going to give you a timeout. Oh, no, it was, I'm about to kick your ass.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how...
It's things have dramatically changed. We overcorrected, and I don't know if we're going to get back to a good middle point or if we're just never going to find it and we'll just constantly be missing the mark.
Yeah, and that's what I tend to think, that we've the pendulum swung so far.
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
It's not coming back.
Yeah. So it was around 30 that you got involved in.
Right. After I recuperated, I heard about the sports program, and I asked my doctor, "Do you think I'm healed enough to do something like that?" He goes, "Yeah, just be careful. Don't do anything crazy." Y'all know me. Telling me not to do something crazy was a complete waste of time because I'm crazy. And so I got into it and started out. I was on a wheelchair handball team. Mm-hmm. It's like it's played on a basketball court, usually indoors. But instead of using the basketball goals, we use one of those standard yellow playground balls like you used to have with texture all over and stuff.
Yeah.
One of those. And there was a goal on each side with 2 goalies in wheelchairs in each one. And so it was a cross between soccer and basketball.
Yeah.
You had to dribble every so often or you lost the ball. Mm-hmm. Things like that. And it was fun. Got hurt a lot. Got knocked out of my chair many times.
I bet. This was in the 90s?
Yeah, this was in the late 80s. 1989.
Gotcha.
Is when I started.
Okay. That's cool.
Man, I bet that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
A bunch of dudes in wheelchairs, like body checking each other and stuff.
Oh, dude.
Because it sounds like y'all played very aggressive, huh?
Oh, I've had my chair flipped sideways and backwards. I hit the back of my head so many times.
You're a tough bastard, man. Well, see, that's kind of what I wanted to get at, is that to start comedy at retirement age, comedy is a very intimidating thing for people that haven't done it. And sometimes the ignorance of just not having any experience can play in the person. It pushes you into it because you don't realize, you don't know what you don't know. So you go into it thinking it's not going to be as bad as it is. But I think for most people, they do understand on some level that like trying to start doing comedy, if you don't have anything, if you're not making an adjacent move from some other kind of performance art or comedy writing, it's very hard. And so for you to go into retirement after a lifelong career as a professional, and then to go into that doesn't, it's like, it's not necessarily relaxing, in my opinion. Like comedy is a very meaningful pursuit. I don't know, for us anyway. But it's not easy. It's not something you do to take it easy and pass a good time. It's like something that's challenging. Yeah. So I get the impression that for you to start doing it now at the time that you did, at this stage in your life, a life of hard knocks, very literal hard knocks, must have helped you develop the right kind of mental attitude to go into something like comedy at retirement. Yeah. I'm just curious, what would you am I on the right track here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You basically want to know what motivated me to do something so insane.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. It's, growing up like I did when there was nothing for somebody like me, I was lucky enough to be so self-aware that I knew if I didn't push myself, I would never have a life.
Right.
That I had to find a life path. I couldn't expect other people to do it for me because there was nothing.
Yeah, the circumstances are going to be what they are, and there's no changing them. So
yeah, I can't.
You're just going to have, things are just going to be harder for you if you want to be happy.
If I want any kind of normal life,
right?
Because I had known disabled people, even in family friends that had children that were disabled. They kept those children. Like I said, I was born when Eisenhower was president. They kept their children who were disabled usually in a back room of the house.
Right.
And didn't even take them out when they had company.
Yeah. Man, that's making me sad.
That's the world.
That's how it was. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being,
Yeah, dude, my dogs live better than that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they're featured at every party.
And it was like they looked at it as, and I know where they were coming from. They were ashamed,
right,
that they produced a child like that. It was because back then, a man was a man.
Right.
You didn't.
Yeah, not much understanding of things. Yeah, like they didn't understand how that type of shit worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you either did everything perfect or you were ashamed of it and hid it.
Yeah.
And they took that same thing with their kids, but no, I was like, no, I started talking when I was 9 months old and never stopped.
Yeah.
So it was hard to hide me.
When I was in high school, we had this religion teacher, and this woman was very old. And one time she said that whenever a kid has Down syndrome, it's because their God is punishing their parents. That their parents did something wrong. And I remember like my cousins and stuff, and I had like an aunt that was a teacher at the school, and they couldn't believe she had told the kids that, and like she got in trouble, and they told her like, you can't say stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, but she probably. So what that tells me is there was a time that enough people thought that, because she didn't know that was going to be a thing that you shouldn't say. So what that tells me is there was a point in her life where everyone just thought that. She was telling,
Oh, yeah.
And the whole thing, which I think is crazy too about that, I was like, this woman obviously hasn't, you can tell she hasn't spent much time with a Down syndrome child, because then you would know it's anything, if you've been around Down syndrome children, it's the complete opposite of a punishment for the you know what I mean? They're the greatest people to be around. You know what I mean? They're a blessing, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's a perception I always had to work with. I'm a lot more than just what you see in the physical. You know, I'm an actual person, you know?
Right.
And it's worse because like with cerebral palsy, some people with cerebral palsy can't speak.
Right.
So, and when you can't speak, back then more than now, people automatically assume that you were stupid.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there's a big difference between being mute and being, what do they used to call it? Dumb? Isn't that what they used? Yeah. But that meant the same thing in terms of like what they were referring to, but it brought with it a whole set of assumptions that just completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that at least, and this is just, I don't know, man, this is just me talking about something I don't really know anything about, but it would seem to me that at least with like, and you're as an example, I mean, you're an educated professional, you had a whole career. If somebody sat down, if somebody sat down across a restaurant from me, they might not have any idea like what would it be like to interact with this guy. But then as soon as you start talking and having a conversation, your sharpness and you start sharing about your life, it completely like snaps into focus at that point. But from across the room, somebody, if somebody with cerebral palsy could be anywhere from where you're at to completely unable to communicate, man, I can't imagine the kind of assumptions that somebody might make. And then if you can't communicate, you don't have any way of demonstrating that you're really sharp and you're picking up on everything.
Definitely not in a short window of time. You
Right.
know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, you'd have to you'd have to take time to get to know me. Yeah.
My wife was a sign language interpreter, and she was telling me that sometimes what happens is a group of deaf people will go to a restaurant and there is a sign language interpreter that is not trying to be incognito, but just they don't realize that like there's one person at the table that can hear everything that's going on and they can communicate very well with all of the deaf people at the table. So a lot of times what happens is like wait staff will say like really disrespectful shit like right in front of them, not realizing that like one of those people in really plain looking clothes, they're there wearing.
Listen to what this bitch just said.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I mean, you think it's bad when you go into like a Korean nail salon and you know you can't understand, and then there's one person that speaks a language. It's worse when it's deaf because
he spends a lot of time in the nail salon.
I do. It's just a trope, but she would tell me these stories about.
Yeah, I do too, but it's just to sniff the nail polish.
You've been huffing that stuff, man.
There's things you could sniff in there.
Yeah, now that they have foot baths in them, that's like, no.
All right, so I guess it's all kind of starting to make a little bit more sense to me because to go into something that would be as challenging at a stage in your life where I would think a lot of people would be like, I'm gonna take it easy now. You don't seem like you have a take it easy button. It seems to me like you've been adjusted to this from a very young age.
That's your difficulty is your comfort speed, right? In a way, like that's all. You're just so used to challenge that if it's uncomfortable to not have a challenge.
I work better under pressure.
Right. Right.
Than I do when I'm not. If I'm not under pressure, I could turn into a vegetable.
Yeah. But it is a good thing. Like, when something is hard to do, there's so much. You get so much out of something that's hard to do.
Yeah, it's
very rewarding. I try to get this into my kids' heads all the time, and they just don't understand. You know. That I'm always trying to get them to challenge themselves in some kind of way, and like don't like to if something's hard, it's like, oh man, and it's like, no, this is so the thing that's the harder stuff is the better stuff. No, you're gonna learn. I try to tell them that all the time. You're gonna learn like things that come easy to you don't make you happy. They're not good. There's a reason they come easy. They're just not good. The best things in life are going to be the things that are going to be hard to do and hard to work at, but you're going to be motivated because those things are the good things. They're the better things.
Yeah. And that brings up something about comedy specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like y'all mentioned, I came out of the gate hard and fast compared to what it usually takes. 5 months. I mean, to win Stone versus Drunk versus Sober and then come back and kill when I opened it. That's great, but it can also put me at a disadvantage because it raises expectations really high for a newbie who's inexperienced, and that puts pressure on me. So luckily, I do have the wherewithal to like, well, if this is hard, then it means I have to work harder.
Right.
Yeah.
Not that I have to get people to help me more. I have to work harder.
Yeah. And that's just from a lifetime of experience.
Of always having to work harder to do anything. Yeah. When I couldn't become a doctor because there was nothing in place, what was I going to do? Tell the dean of the medical school? No, you have to let me be a doctor.
Right.
Yeah, now they have TV shows where the lead character is like disabled doctors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
so Tom's yelling at his TV.
You
motherfuckers.
You bitch.
Yeah.
I tried that. This isn't reality TV. So I pivoted and became an accountant, but I literally told myself when that happened, I'm not letting this happen so easily again. If I decide I want to do something, I'm going to make it happen, no matter what they say.
Yeah.
Even if I'm the only one fighting for it. So, in doing that, I was able to open a lot of doors for the people that came after me. When I was competing in the Paralympics, it was relatively new. The first Paralympic trial I went to, it was in 91. It ended up being a world championship because people from all over the world came to qualify for the Paralympics. And that, by the way, was incredible. It's just like you see it on TV for the regular Olympics. It was on Hofstra University on Long Island.
Okay.
And if you were wearing your athlete badge, you just walk up to a Pizza Hut on campus, because vendors set up their stuff. They saw your athlete tag, tell them what you want, to hand it to you. You eat.
I thought he was going to tell me he got all kind of pussy with it. Man, you had that ass. He was swimming in it, dude.
That part's true, too. There's a lot of fucking going on in the Olympics. Between the athletes. You hear about the stuff when coaches, molesting athletes and stuff. But there's a lot of consensual sex going on too.
Yeah, I mean the Olympics we watch every 4 years. I mean it's the same thing, right? I mean especially lately, I've been hearing a lot about that of just like athletes are just hooking up with athletes all over the place at the Olympics.
Oh,
so it's just
yeah. I mean, even among the disabled athletes,
Yeah.
It's like, you finally at a place where you don't have to fuck your sister.
Dirty old man.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, I love it.
It's just me.
So,
tell you what, next time you come do a podcast, before you come, spray some fucking WD-40 or something on your wheelchair.
Squeaky.
Yeah, you squeaky son of a bitch. Lube up that hardware, man. Get some penetrating oil in that shit.
My knees and hips are the same way.
Yeah.
all right. So this is something that I'm curious about. How do you envision like the next 5 years playing out in terms of comedy? Because like we all kind of have like a 5-year plan for how we would like to see it go. And I'm just curious, at your age, do you think do you place any limits on how far it would go based on when you started, like what the stage of your life that you were at, or do you just think the sky's the limit, however it goes?
The only limit I have is how long I'm gonna live. I mean, because I got way more years behind me than ahead of me.
Right. But as far as that goes, you know, going on tour, opening up for big national headliners, all that kind of stuff, like that's all on the table, right?
Oh yeah. My biggest focus now is working on more material.
Right.
And I've been racking my brain, you know, where to go from here, you know, and material wise.
Right.
And one of my cousins had told me once, you need to write a book about your life. You've done so much and you're crazy. So it'll be funny.
Yeah.
So I decided, well, that's what I'll do with my humor. I'm going to tell the story of my life.
Through jokes.
Yeah.
I think we're all kind of trying to do that in a way, you know. Weaving it all together into some sort of overarching story is I think the challenge, and telling a variety of jokes to just kind of show all the different sides of you, you know. I think we're kind of all in some way trying to do that.
It's hard to make accounting jokes though.
Yeah. You know, my father-in-law was an accountant. And he was a perverted son of a bitch too. After he died, like we're in his house, I found a bunch of these folders just full of like jokes he had printed off of the computer, the dirtiest jokes. They weren't his jokes, but it was his sense of humor, you know?
Right.
Yeah. That's funny.
His meme folder.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You were talking about like influences on humor. It's like I grew up listening to, well, I said, you know, older, like watching on TV, like Ozzie and Harriet, Burns and Allen, Henny Youngman, which goes way back.
Yeah.
But he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, which I grew up watching.
That's crazy. Like Ed, like he's before Carson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I remember seeing Jack Parr doing the Tonight Show. Dude. But like the comics that I really found funny were like Red Fox. I grew up listening to his albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some early on dirty stuff.
Oh, he was raunchy.
Yeah, it was very influential stuff.
He was raunchy.
He has this great joke that's one of my favorite jokes ever, where he says, you people who don't smoke, like, what do y'all do after sex? Eat jelly beans? Like,
yeah. One of my favorite jokes of his, I remember from one of his albums that we listened to I'm talking, I was young. I mean, like 8, 9 at the most. And he told this joke. He said he went to his doctor because his penis was all messed up. His doctor said, "What have you been doing to it?" He goes, "Nothing. Just sticking it in beans." Doc said, "Beans? What kind of beans are you sticking it in?" He said, "Human beings."
Oh my God.
And that joke has stuck with me my entire life.
One of the jokes that I heard when I was in middle school that I will never forget. I remember the basic moving parts of it, and it's this Superman's flying around the planet, and then he looks down with his supervision and sees Wonder Woman like sprawled out on her back, and she's naked, and it kind of looks like she's playing with herself, and she's having a grand old time. And he's like, "All right, perfect opportunity." So he flies down and gives her the business. And then when he's finished, he rolls over on the ground and says, "This was the '90s, so it was like really cheesy." It's something like, "Oh, that was great. Was it good for you?" And Wonder Woman's like, "Yeah, it was great for me, but I bet it was even better for the Invisible Man." No, it's whatever now. But 11 years old. That was
Yeah.
the most clever,
Yeah,
hilarious
sure.
thing I'd ever
Yeah.
heard in my life.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I growing up listening to Red Fox and
Mhm.
and I remember I used to like what was this black comic's name? Dolomite?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what his name was. But he'd go by Dolomite. It was like a character. They did a movie in the last few years on Netflix that Eddie Murphy played in. That was fucking great, dude.
Yeah,
Great.
I saw
don't know
that.
if you saw it,
Yeah,
but
Rudy Ray Moore.
that was
Okay.
and it was a great movie because it was more than just a very funny movie. It was a very touching movie. You know, it had a great story. But yeah, he was very interesting.
Yeah.
And it was during the yeah, he did a bunch of those movies. What they called it, like
Black exploitation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, black exploitation movies. Yeah. And then later in life, just Richard Pryor,
Of course.
Robin Williams, of course. Even Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Billy Crystal was in that sitcom Soap, which was hilarious.
Yeah. Sort of golden age of TV.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too, like with Billy Crystal and stuff, where it was like comedy used to be a very like fancy thing or elegant thing, or even like
everybody wore suits.
Yeah,
it's glamorous. Yeah, like if you look at the like the Rat Pack, like that. Those are comedians, you know what I mean? It's kind of, even though it's changed, but it's kind of like society's changed too. I mean, that's men wore suits and all that.
Exactly.
And even the way they were dirty was different.
Right.
Like they were dirty, but they were an appropriate dirty for that time.
Right.
But pretty much what it is, if you look at all those guys, between like all the Rat Pack guys and then Don Rickles and all those dudes, it's their version of what we have now. A bunch of guys sitting around talking shit to each other, basically,
Exactly.
They just did it in like their vernacular and the clothes they wore.
Yeah. And at the level that was socially acceptable at the time.
Yeah. Because comedy lives on this line. And so the line is going to be different for each culture, each decade.
Yeah. If we said what we say then, it would be outrageous to them. And then there's some things that if they would say it now would be outrageous to us.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny how that works.
Yeah. It's always in flux.
What about Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh,
you like him?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was, I liked him a lot. He was like a like machine gun. He would machine gun jokes at you.
And self-deprecating. He mostly made fun of himself, which is, pretty obviously mostly what I do.
Yeah, I like the self-deprecating thing. I think that Drew, and there's like a lot of other comics in our scene, some of the best comics, they excel at roasting. And I like to do more of a self-deprecating thing. And then you see those people that are really great at being kind of right in the middle. So I think like Joshua Jordan is a good example of somebody who can be very self-deprecating.
Yeah, but he'll roast the shit out of you too, though.
Yeah.
He's dangerous.
Yeah. He's
dangerous because you don't see it coming.
Right.
Because he's nice and all this. And like you said, very self-deprecating and used to be a fat guy and all this. And he's got that. And then you throw a couple roast jokes at him.
Yeah.
And then he turns on you, man. You
look out.
You don't realize, you know what I'm saying? You don't realize the well, I'm trying to think how to say, when you pull that chain or whatever, you getting back way more than you thought.
For the ghost roast coming up that I'm gonna be in at Armosphere, I'm looking more forward to what he does than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to hear what he hits me with.
Yeah, I'd like to hear him write jokes. You know who he's supposed to be?
Jerry Springer.
Josh. So it's you and Josh against each other? Joshua Jordan?
He's Jerry Springer. And
yeah, that should be funny. Joshua writing roast jokes.
And I'm Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, and then that's a tough spot to be in to have to write roast jokes for a guy who's paralyzed in a wheelchair.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing. Is a lot of the people. I think do you get to choose who you're going to be in that?
Yeah, you pick.
I would think everybody's going to pick someone that's going to intentionally make it harder. The most beloved people that don't seem like there's anything you can say about them. Those would be the.
Yeah. He's gonna deliver. I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's plenty to make fun of Stephen Hawking about. He was kind of a shit ass.
Yeah, he wasn't all that nice of a person.
Yeah, he. I don't know how many. He was married multiple times, and he would like cheat on his wives and stuff. Like, how the fuck this dude cheating on women? And how horrible must the woman feel? Already getting cheated on feels so bad. Where you're like, you feel like garbage when someone cheats on you. You know what I mean? And then if that guy cheats on you, like you can
added sting.
Yeah.
Wow, it wasn't good enough for you?
Yeah, someone that you could like just pull the battery cables off and he can't fucking go. You know what I mean? Like you can turn the man off. Yeah. Like he's spitting game like that.
Yeah, he's got it on off, but
yeah. Nice shirt. It would look better on my floor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing,
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that roast battle. What do you know the date for that?
It's the 19th.
Okay, so that's like the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 19th.
That's gonna be good.
It's good. Like I said, I can't wait to see what he hits me with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not doing any talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's all gonna be on the computer.
Right.
So it's going to take everything I have not to laugh at him. I know when he starts talking, it's going to take everything I have not to laugh.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Oh, yeah.
The first one was really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I had a blast with what you did as David Koresh.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you won and did your set. Even that was funny.
Yeah, as David Koresh.
I'm gonna do it as Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, it was too hard. I was thinking about it before. I was like, I don't understand how I'm gonna be someone then not be them for 5 minutes, and then, even though I'm not even really doing an impression or anything, but it's like. And I was like, if they were filming it, so I'm like, if they decide to put it on YouTube or something like that. I'm not throwing because that was the thing. If I would be doing my own material, I would kind of want that cut. So now I'm not cutting any content, if it would get posted or anything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think, at first, when I first started doing comedy, I was kind of felt like I was a little on my own in terms of like, I thought I had an unpopular opinion about like not wanting my sets to be recorded and just put out on the internet for anybody to see. But since I've been doing it, I've noticed that like for the most part, that's pretty much how we feel, right? Like you don't want to burn your material, put it on social media.
Yeah, especially when we have so little right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have I wouldn't even say I have a solid 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I've done 20 minutes a few times, but I'm working on the 20. You know what I mean? I'm working on making the 20 minutes a good 20. Like, I don't think it's a solid 20 minutes.
20 minutes aren't the 20 minutes you want to have.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Barely the 15 minutes is the 15 minutes I want to have, I can do it a couple options of a good solid 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable. Yeah. Like I've got that down, but going to 15, 20 minutes, I can do it, but it's not going to be as good as the 10. But right. I just have to do it because it's the only way.
You have to. It's the only way you can ever get it is to work on it and have it go bad and learn from it and fix what you can fix.
Fix the low points, the lulls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you got to throw stuff out completely because it just sucks so bad.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think for the most part, it's just moving things around. I think it's the placement of where the bits are is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to. That's why I decided just to stay on this track.
Mm-hmm.
and just gradually go over different periods of my life and talk about them, making them funny, because then it'll all fit.
Right.
I won't have to worry about fitting it in. And it's what I know. Because I don't like politics.
Yeah.
It's hard to make it funny. And you run the risk of alienating half your audience. You know? And
or depending where you are, your whole audience.
Right. Or your whole audience.
Yeah, depending on where there's concentrations of people who all think the same way, you know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's the same way with religion. And you'd think I'd want to do religion because something that might surprise you about me. I'm literally an ordained minister.
Wow, that is a surprise.
It's with the Universal Life Church. I did it because some of my friends want me to do their marriage ceremonies when they get married.
Yeah,
because they know I'll make it fun.
Right.
You know? But I'm going to take it completely seriously. It'll be funny. And probably a little dark, but I'll be taking it seriously.
When did you become ordained?
It's about a year ago.
Okay. So this is for like nuptials that are coming up.
Nuptials, I toyed with starting a religion. There's good money in it.
Yeah. And if there's anyone who's earned the right to do religious humor, I mean,
yeah,
it's him, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, had to slow me down
God
somehow.
owes you one.
Yeah, God owed me one. Don't talk about your mother that way.
I have to say, though, it does burn my ass every now and then because, like, Don, he hasn't been doing it very long. And, like, I think one thing that does help you, that makes you real palatable for people is that they see this guy. They don't know you. They see this old man in a wheelchair, and the first thing you start doing is making all these self-deprecating jokes about being in a wheelchair, which is the thing, like, people are scared. The types of jokes people are scared to make about some, you know what I mean? And then you get up there and you start doing, like, people will be laughing, covering their mouths and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I see that, and I'm like, fuck, man, Don is so lucky that God blessed him with
this wonderful,
and punished the rest of us
by making us normal.
By making us mobile.
So unfair, man. It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and he's lived a long time already.
Yeah, no shit. When's this fucker gonna die, man? God damn.
I do think that one of the things that we kind of like hit a bunch on this podcast is talking about the way that you come across to people in the first impressions and how you have to use that. And I just think that it just in this case, it just works out that you have a lot going in your favor. I think it would be easy for somebody to come across. I don't know. I think sometimes I come across a certain way that makes people a little bit less inclined to want to laugh. And so if you come across like you walk into a room and if you walk into a room and you come across like a little snooty or a little like I'm too good for this room, which is very easy to do for some people, people they clam up. They don't want to laugh at you. And so if you can come across as fun and self-deprecating, or if you just come across as unassuming, it's so much easier to get. It's just, I don't know. One of the things I'd like to work on is how do I hurry up and get right to that place where we get all that shit out of the way so we can have a good time. You know what I mean? And that's just something that I think that just works out easier for some people.
I think you're kind of doing a good job of working on that. I found like you are kind of putting, and when you're doing longer sets, the front of your set is you're usually putting like, you know, people like, is that guy gay or what? You know, stuff like that in the front already, because that's going to be the first impression. That's going to be the first thing people are going to think about you.
Right.
They just see the way you talk and hear the way you talk and your mannerisms. I think most people, even though they might not admit it, most people are going to be like, is this dude gay? Or what's his deal?
Right.
And instead of just glossing over it and just telling other jokes or whatever, you acknowledge it in the beginning.
Right.
Like, I know, I understand how I come off.
Exactly. What if you waited until the second half of your set to do any jokes that referenced what people see when you first took the stage, and they were just waiting the whole time. Like, is he going to address the thing? So when you hit him with it straight out the gate, I think that there's a sense of relief. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like he was saying before, it's like a bubble of pressure that you pop as soon as you walk up there.
And it's like permission.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like, you can laugh because I'm gonna.
Right. Let's get that shit out of the way. And it sets the tone for your set in such a great way. And clearly the way that you receive. I think the only times I've ever seen you do a set that was just kind of like not this big boisterous thing is maybe if we're in the room and it's one of those slow nights where it's just the comics that have seen your whole act multiple times and nobody's really getting anything. It's not just you. It's like win the whole night. But typically, especially in front of a crowd, I mean, you murder you and everybody knows it. And so I'm excited to see where things are going to go in the next few years.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you put an audience in front of me, I'm turned on just like putting a camera in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don had a great thing too. One time I'm telling Don, I was like, man, you have like such a great, like I'll tell Don, and one time my back was hurting, and I told Don, I'm like, dude, you're so lucky you don't have to put up with this, you know? And he has such a great sense of humor. I was like, dude, I love your sense of humor. Like, I like how you're not uptight about this and all that. And he's like, dude, like, look at me.
Right.
There's nothing you can say to me that's gonna ruin my day. Like, I've been through work. You know what I mean? He's not gonna get butthurt over a joke because you know what I mean.
I'll get aggravated
if it worse things in my life than a joke.
Right.
If it's not funny, I'll feel like you're wasting my time. But other than that,
that's different. Yeah,
it's different. Yeah. Now, when I first started school, like I said, if somebody made fun of me, I punched him in the face.
Yeah.
But I got tired of getting sent to the principal's office.
When it comes to getting bullied and teased and shit, I feel like it's so much more healthy. I'm not advocating anything, but it's so much more healthy, in my opinion, to do what you do and damn the consequences and deal with it than to sit there and stew on it. You know,
there's so many times I've expressed to my wife, I was like, God, sometimes I feel like our jobs as parents would be so much easier if our kids got bullied more at school. Like when I went to school, you know, I've got a 13-year-old stepson and he'll tell me something. I was like, that is wild. Like he can tell me something like he said to someone. I'm like, that is wild that you didn't get the shit beat out of you today at school. You know what I mean? That is crazy. Like these kids are pussies, man. You know, like I can't believe because in a way it does kind of it kind of sets you up for like because the thing is once you're gonna go out into the real world, there's bullies everywhere. You know, it's not a good and you're gonna need to know how to deal with them, and it kind of keeps you in check too.
Right.
A little bit like your own little attitude.
Yeah, men in particular, we deal with there's a sort of we all know, I've heard some other comics say this, so I'm just repeating somebody else's idea, but we all know that if we do the wrong thing, that like fists are going to fly at some point.
Yeah, there's always a possibility of physical violence for us.
Yeah, I think
I have been trying to get that up through my stepson's head lately. I'm trying to get it like, dude, you don't understand. Like, you're not a girl. You're not a chick, dude. Like, there's someone, if you say and do the wrong thing, someone can physically hurt you and it will be acceptable to like,
yes, it'll be socially acceptable.
If the worst case of they might be like, maybe you should have, maybe you overreacted. That's going to be the most they're going to say. But as a man, people don't really, if people find out if you're walking around just popping off at the mouth and someone punches you in the mouth, people don't have sympathy for you, you know?
Yeah.
It's understood for us that is a consequence to your actions. I'm trying to explain to him, like, you can't go around just saying whatever's on your mind, saying the first thing you think to people. Someone's going to hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's different parenting now, too. I mean, when I was a kid, punish me? By doing what? taking my clothes? We poor. I ain't got nothing you can take.
Yeah, to me, the worst as a kid, make me stay in the house. That was a punishment.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a punishment. That's like, yeah, that's what I was going to do today anyway. You know? There's so much awesome stuff in here.
That's true.
We had to kneel down in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to do that with my kids when they were younger.
But this was so long ago. My dad used to make us make even me, if I was bad, and I was, trust me. And I would have to kneel down on dry rice.
I heard about that.
I had to do that when I was a kid. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rice, everything. Everything's rice.
Yeah, it sucked, man. I had to do that. I had to run laps around the house one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was like, I don't know what I did, but whatever it is, my parents had figured like humiliation is warranted in this punishment. That was another thing. Our parents, there was part that fit into punishment was humiliation, depending on what you did.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was always like my mom was like, I will go to school and I will pull your pants down and I will spank your ass in front of everyone. And I would like believe she would have did it. I'm like, oh no, the girls are gonna see my wiener.
Oh, my mama would hit us in public.
Yeah, my mom used to hit me in public all the time.
The lengths that people and parents go to now to never do anything that might socially isolate their kids.
Oh no, that was almost the opposite, dude.
Yeah.
They would do like I was telling this to my daughters the other day when we were in Walmart, and I was like, when we were kids, like there was an understanding in society you could hit your kids in Walmart. Like Walmart, Target, Kmart, stores like that. Your parents would just hit you. If you were like in a JCPenney, then there was like they would kind of pinch you on the arm and there was to pull you in like, we're gonna go in the bathroom. Yeah. What that meant was like, this place is too nice for me to whip your ass right now. Right. But if I do it in the bathroom, society's decided it's okay. Like, this is a nice, we don't want to watch a bunch of kids getting the shit beat out of them in JCP. If it's in a mall or somewhere, and not like the mall where the street's accessible to every store. There's a food court, you got to take your kids into the bathroom. But Walmart's free for all.
Oh, yeah.
Walmart, you even, every now and then, you want to teach them a lesson, you leave them there. You leave them at Walmart. You drive around the block a few times. Maybe go get a drink at the bar, and then you come back and you pick them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids don't know how good they have it, man.
But it's weird. Yeah, it's like you have to expose people to adversity.
Yes.
You have to. If you're not, you just end up soft.
Yeah.
I mean,
I 100% agree. I think that there's no need to expose your children to trauma, but that's hard to define. But adversity, dude, like
there's no way you're not gonna expose your kids to some trauma.
Yeah, you're gonna accidentally.
If anything, I think you can. I think we kind of do it a little bit now by trying so hard not to.
Yeah, because we're not preparing them.
Not to traumatize them, and then we end up having this. We have I mean, I've kind of had it personally where it's like I've tried so hard with one of my daughters to not like fuck her up, like that people kind of did to me growing up just because of the times it was. Like, I didn't realize, like, I grew up under so much anxiety all the time. Like, I grew up around a lot of men. My dad farmed, so you'd be in the field around men, and it was a lot of like, come on, move, 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 move. Like, almost like kind of being in the army. And I was kind of like that with my kids a little bit at first. And I'm like, then I realized it's like, all right, I've lived this life with so much anxiety, and now I'm putting this anxiety on the kids where I've gone to a point to where I'm trying not to do that and not give them all that anxiety and stress and trauma. And now it's at a point to where it's like, well, now me and my daughter have our relationship is not as close as it's supposed to be because I'm trying to keep all my toxic energy so far away from her, that I'm keeping everything away from, we're just we're not this close like we should be,
God, it's hard, man. It's
Yeah.
really hard.
Well, especially as the child starts to age, because they want to branch. Every year a child ages, they want more and more independence, trying to find out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and I'm trying to give them that too.
Yeah. And then, you gotta give them the opportunity to fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And face the consequences on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. Like my mom and dad were always divorced. And there's this thing about like when I was growing up, like all the dumb little fashions that come in, like my dad was like, no, you can't dress that way. You cannot dye your hair that color. You can't do this. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. And my mom was like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Because, and I was telling my wife this, I was like, I kind of think I'm kind of going that way with that my mom was with my kids. When they're going to want to wear their stupid clothes or whatever, it's fine, do it. And take a bunch of pictures of them. And then, because that's how my mom was. And it's like, hey, remember, look how stupid you looked. Remember when you dyed your hair, when you bleached your hair because Eminem was real popular? Like, look how fucking retarded you look, Like, and I was like, I think that's more fun, And my dad doesn't even realize he missed out on that.
Yeah. Because he would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's my wife and I, she got pregnant about probably 6 months after we got married.
But I thought he was about to say 6 months ago. I was like, God damn, dude.
Oh, no, she's not Sarah from the Bible. We feel that, but she's not. No, it's about 6 months, and she lost it and found out she had heart problems and decided not to have any. And now I'm almost glad we didn't have kids.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be scared shitless all the time if I had kids right now in school.
Oh, yeah, and you have so much freedom, too. Like, you don't have kids, nothing holds you back. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I hear a lot of stories. There's a lot of different opinions about, like, as you get older, you want to have kids so you can have somebody that kind of pour back into you as you kind of sort of, as you age and revert back to kind of being a little bit more less independent. You kind of want to have kids around to help you out with that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. I think there's this complicated thing we're trying to do between like balance of if we lived more like a community, you wouldn't have to be so dependent on your kids to take care of you because you're in a community and there's other people there that can do that for you. So I don't know. It's too big of a topic to bring up at this point.
Yeah, well, when my mother got older, she didn't want to live with us.
Yeah.
She moved into a elderly, we moved her away from Bayou Vista, which is almost to Berwick, living on her own to a retirement community here. And then when she got to where she just couldn't take care of herself, well, Mama, we're going to put you in the spare room. She goes, no, I don't want to live with y'all. Just find me a nice nursing home.
Yeah.
She didn't want to live with us. It's like she said, I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah. I hear a lot of that kind of thing from certain generations. Just that idea of like, I don't want to be a burden. And I don't know. I kind of I feel like I have that same idea in my head of like when my little girl gets to the point where she's got a family and a career and all that kind of stuff. The idea of us reaching at a certain point where we're depending on her and interfering with her life, it does not sound like something that I would be cool with.
I'm going to burden the shit out of my kids.
I used to say all the time, I want to live long enough to be a burden.
All right. Well, I'm all alone on that. So we like to wrap up each episode with a hypothetical question for our guests that hopefully will illuminate what in your life sort of rivals stand up in importance and meaning. So something that's
and then a foot race.
Yeah.
Afterwards. A contest of physical domination. I don't know. I'm not good at improv.
Yeah, I'm not really either. I'm good at reacting to stuff people say.
Yeah. I'm not good at either. So I've thought about what I might trade in my life to get what I wanted out of stand-up comedy. And it occurred to me that I would give up sex for comedy. So if I had to never have sex with another person ever again, but in exchange for that, all of my wildest comedy dreams would come true. Exactly the way I wanted to. I would take that trade. So if you had to make a deal with the devil to give up something very costly, so that all of your comedy dreams would come true exactly the way that you wanted them to, what might that be for you?
What I would be willing to give up to accomplish it?
Yeah. Something that means a lot, something that would be, that would be a hard decision, but I would ultimately do
dancing.
Yeah, tap dance. I hate that shit. No, what would I give up? Wow, that's an interesting question. Honestly, that's a very difficult question.
It's a head scratcher.
Because of what my nature is.
Right.
Because I don't cling to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in carrying baggage.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's good baggage.
Yeah.
Because it's still heavy.
Right.
And, but I guess I would give up good food.
Yeah.
Even if I had to eat Gerber carrot baby food.
Yeah.
Which is the nastiest fucking thing on earth. And that's all I would have to eat.
Good food. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, because it's feasible. You could do it. I don't know what's there's always kind of a fantasy element to this where it's it doesn't always have to make sense, but that is something that's a clear line where it's you could give up that pleasure of having good food and then in exchange for that, because that one hits me hard because I'm crazy.
I'm Cajun on both sides.
Yeah.
Both
or even just chicken wings, man.
Yeah.
Good chicken wings. That's one of the perks of comedy, and you'd have to give that up, dude. We'd all be eating wings in front of you.
Oh yeah,
Central wings.
Here, RoboCop, eat this baby food.
Yeah. And what would that look like for you? If all of your comedy dreams, whatever they are, if they came true, how do you envision that looking?
Well, like you had said earlier, opening up for a bigger comic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe ending up getting an hour and somebody else open up for me eventually towards the end. Yeah. But then when that happens, I want that to be such the greatest freaking hour of my life. Best comedy I've ever done. Everybody notices it. And I drop dead on stage. That would be once I reach the top, I'm done.
That would be Don
awesome.
Schexnider, the end.
Yeah. The final chapter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like Alien. I won't keep coming back.
Yeah. That's cool, man. If you had to choose from the available options now, let's just say that whoever's alive right now, if 5 years from now you could do an hour special, who would you want to open up for you?
Oh, I could see either of y'all opening up for me.
That's what I was thinking, dude. I was thinking me.
Yeah.
You were thinking you say Shane Gillis or someone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because y'all both make me laugh.
Oh, my God. Well, we had that great gig the other night. I mean, it was not a very well-attended gig, but I felt like we all got up there and delivered for the audience.
It was
yeah,
fun.
it worked out.
It was fun. Yeah, I said, nobody's watching. Let's just have a good time.
Yeah, and I didn't feel bad driving home. You know what I mean? I've done comedy before where I just drove home with no radio on and be like, I could just drive off this bridge right now and end this pain. I didn't feel that at all. It was like, that was a fun night. We got to hang. There wasn't, what did we end up having? Don walked 2 people. But not really. He didn't walk them. They watched him and they laughed, and then they, I guess, didn't want to be there anymore. So there was like 4 people, like 4 at one point where I'm supposed to address the audience. I was just like, "Hey, you 4 fucking guys right here," because it would have been stupid for me to talk like I'm talking to a crowd.
Yeah,
But it was a fun hang. It was the 4 guys there were watching paint. They were being as much of an audience as they could be.
As they could.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's I'd like at least one person in the audience, but we had 3, so I think because at the end, I think it was like 3 people.
Yeah, it was 3 guys at the end. I had an opportunity. There's a new thing I've been working in about my dad, and I want to be able to get a rope at least one woman. The idea is generally to the ladies in the audience, blah blah blah. But there was one woman at the bar, and it was kind of a funny thing because it's kind of like if you ask the question that I want to ask to the women in the audience and they weren't listening until I addressed them, it's a very rude thing to just say to some random person.
Like real sexual predator. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. And so it didn't occur to me. I was just glad to see a woman sitting at the bar. It's like, you at the bar. Okay, so there's at least one lady in here, blah, 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 blah. And it didn't even occur to me until after. Like, that probably ruined their night. They were probably on a date, and I just randomly interrupted it to be incredibly rude to this woman. But it's not intended to be that way. But it's kind of funny the wild shit that can happen when you have like a small, intimate crowd.
Yeah, because sometimes you can just become experimental and just.
Yeah.
I saw Alana J one time, like, with no kind of setup or any, like, just out of the blue, just ask the person in the audience if they've ever had HPV. And it was so funny. Because I think the guy was being like a little lounge. She's like, "Have you ever had HPV? You look kind of HPV-ish." Like, it was so funny. I think I messaged in the group chat like, "Alana J just ask someone if they have HPV," with no kind of
context.
Yeah, no context to that. Just in the middle of her set.
Well, Don, do you have any dates to promote coming up, or
the 19th of this month, the Ghost Roast, where I'll be Stephen Hawking's going against Jerry Springer, which I've got most of it down. I just want to put finishing touches on it. It's gonna, hopefully it'll be funny.
So that's going to be a Sunday night. That's Sunday night, the 19th at Artmosphere. The show starts around 8:30.
I think it says 8, but it might be 8:30. It's always around 8 or 8:30 for everything.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show. The first one was amazing. So
I laughed so hard.
Really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with that. I might get tapped to do the recording, the multi-camera recording for that one. If so, based on what we did the first time, I think we can make improvements, and I think the production quality could be really good for the video. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
And where can people find you on social media?
Well, they can go on Facebook under my name. They can go on Instagram under my name. I have a comedy page that I post memes to. That's where I do most of my meme humor there. And
that's a Facebook page?
Huh?
That's a Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay.
A Facebook page is called Don's That's How I Roll Comedy. And I'm not on Twitter, but it's X now.
Yeah.
Can't keep up with Elon.
I think every single comedian that has been on this show so far has gone out of their way to say that they are not on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter sucks, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's just people arguing with each other. That's all it is.
Yeah. No matter what your position is, somebody's going to argue with you about it.
Sometimes they're arguing and they're like not arguing with anyone. You remember I remember whenever they first made the announcement that like the Little Mermaid was going to be black, there were all these people all over Twitter tweeting about people who were upset that the Little Mermaid was black. But there were no tweets on the other side. There were no tweets about upset tweets about
her being black.
About the Little Mermaid being black. I was like, I don't think anyone is really upset. Like, y'all are virtue signaling about nothing right now. Yeah, this isn't even an issue.
It's a straw man.
I don't think anyone cares.
They're creating their own controversy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I think that some of the things that have been coming out recently in the news about like when this came out a lot when Elon was wanting to buy Twitter, but it's continued. They will orchestrate, like a big company with resources like a Disney, for example, or like a Sony Pictures, will orchestrate a bot campaign to, if they want somebody to argue with, they can get the bots to say things that nobody's actually saying it. So they have a straw man argument to make. And then if they want somebody to agree with their position or go dogpile on their competition, they can get an army of bots to do anything they want. They can be like, yes, queen to every single thing they say and agree with them and shout them down and make it seem like everything they say gets, 10,000 likes, or they can send a mob after somebody to make it seem like everything they say is horribly offensive and controversial and basically like beat them into a corner. It's amazing what they can do. We're rapidly reaching this point where you're going to have to be incredibly skeptical of everything that you see.
Oh, yeah, you have to. They can fake. I mean, y'all have seen modern movies.
Mm-hmm.
I have some friends who believe in aliens from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when somebody tells me,
at two of them,
I was gonna say that's
yeah. But like when people tell me that, I'm like, makes my eyes glaze over. I'm like, and they go, "Oh yeah, look, this guy had this picture in this video." You know how easy it is to fake that stuff now?
Mm-hmm. I don't think because of any evidence I've seen. It's just that I just think the universe is too big to not.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I saw a video of you walking one time.
that would be a deep fake. No, I think
out there.
I think there could be aliens. This is interesting though because there could be aliens.
Mm-hmm.
But we watch so much science fiction movies, and we're not getting much science fact.
Yeah, and I don't know what's real or fake. This is the
only problem. We have no concept of the distance between even this galaxy and another one, much less stars from one side of the galaxy we're into the other. The distances are just so vast. I don't think, even if there is life somewhere else, it's no more advanced than us. They're not even anywhere near bridging those distances.
Yeah, there's no telling,
Yeah, the distance
there's too much. There's too much unknown. That's why I think it's crazy to go. It's crazy to argue too hard one way or the other.
Right.
You know what I mean? You would be taking a huge leap of faith to be like, I know that they're there, or even if you're like, well, I know they're not there. They're both. There's too much we don't know for someone to make a definite opinion. Right. We don't know.
Yeah. And it's because the distances are so vast.
Right.
We may never find other life in the universe just because the sheer size of the universe. Yeah. I mean, there are some galaxies that are 100 million light years away from us. It take you 100 million years to get there traveling at the speed of light.
Yeah, that's the only thing about it is you don't just have to think about, okay, so based on how the universe came to be, it's possible there could be a civilization that would be like 1 million years older than us, right? Which, okay, fine. They had the time to work out the technology to be able to move at the speed of light. Great. That doesn't necessarily mean that they figured out a way to extend their own life long enough to be able to travel at that speed and have it even be worth it to reach your destination. And then what? What about the return journey? So I definitely agree with you that just because there could be something else out there doesn't mean that the things that we're observing are, visitors from another solar system.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come all the way over here and see us us three, how disappointing that would
That'd be
be.
very disappointing.
Yeah.
They die right after.
Yeah, one's broken.
Yeah, one's broken. Yeah.
The other one's anorexic. One of them's gay.
Obviously.
Yeah, it's like in freezing yourself I mean,
Yeah.
if I leave a steak in my freezer too long, that thing's useless.
I didn't really think about that. That's a really good, interesting point, though, is that if you could cryogenically freeze yourself, then you could at least solve that problem of just going into a dormant state until you reached your destination.
Could you imagine
do that.
the shrinkage?
Oh, even freeze-dried coffee sucks.
Well, that seems like a good place to end things, Don. We're really glad that you came and were our guest, man, and we're looking forward to future conversations as well. Really go out and check out Ghost Roast, which is going to be coming up this coming weekend. Whenever this comes out, it'll be this coming weekend. And if you want to see Don in the interim, you can just come to any of the local open mics that we have here in the Lafayette area. Just go check out Lafayette Comedy on Facebook to check out where everything's going on. If you have any questions about that. And you guys.
Legends Pub mic is starting back up again.
That's right.
This Thursday. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it'll be kind of hit or miss for a couple of weeks because we have
and
holidays,
whatnot,
and then there's a concert. I think who's in town? Is it not Tom Papa? It's
Todd Berry.
Todd Berry.
Yeah, always
right.
with him and Tom Papa.
Yeah.
For some, I don't know why. They're
They're New
very
York-based
different
guys, right?
Yeah.
So, we've got Legends Pubs coming back. Of course, you always got Artmosphere. We've got a couple of monthlies that go on in the Freetown area you can check out. But, you can come check us all out if you want to. And, you keep plugging away at it. We'll see you next week.